But here's the problem. No scientist today believes the universe is always there. It had a beginning, and they have reasons to believe so. The universe is expanding, we can observe the red shift, and so we say there was a beginning of a universe, and through that singularity that after inflation expanded, and this is what we are, okay? Different models of this universe. Transformations to happen in an ever-existing universe is a huge problem, because you have to explain how does transformation occur if the universe is always there. What transforms it? Because anything to transform, there are certain conditions for it to be transformed. When you make tea or coffee, what do you like? Tea, coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee, fine, you're a coffee person. If you are going to go into your kitchen and you have all the materials to make coffee, you have fridge, there's milk, if you like milk in your coffee, and you have sugar, you have water in your sink, the tap, and you have a cooker of some sort where this fire will come or heat, yeah? And you have coffee grounds or whatever, and you have the mug that you use to coffee. All these materials are there, but they're not rearranged to make coffee. They didn't put together in a cup, water, milk, coffee, sugar, and then if you sat there in your kitchen without willing to make coffee, would those things rearrange by themselves and make coffee? So, transformation with a desired goal like transformation to make coffee, it will never happen unless it's intended to be made. This universe with transformations after one state or other, with all this beautiful mechanism in place, physical laws governing, otherwise it will be all chaos. But the universe is not chaos, it's very much organized with this physical laws in place. This transformation that happened without anything willing it would not happen, just like your coffee would never be made. We really have to be consistent. So this universe, so being always there, it doesn't make much sense unless you say the universe itself is self-aware with a volitional will to make things and the ability to make things. So you are assigning attributes of a God or a creator from theology, from theism, in which there is a willing agent with self-awareness, consciousness, with power, ability and might, making that. So it's just substitute.
I would say that the universe is a much too complex system to make. What you are doing is I think anthropomorphic image of the universe. You're projecting.
I'm putting it in perspective.
Human ideas of beings, which is a human idea. You are projecting it over the whole universe.
How is that a human idea?
The human idea is
transformation is not a human idea.
But the creator is a human idea.
No, I'm saying a transformer to transform. Transformer. Let's call this originator or transformer of this universe a transformer. But don't call it God.
You compare the universe with a living being, with us.
No. I'm talking about transformation. Any transformation to take place, the transformer who is going to transform, or that is going to transform, so I'm not making into a person, that thing must, as a prerequisite, have certain characteristics. Self-awareness. Without self-awareness, no transformation will happen. If I have all the elements to make iPhone 17, and I sit there not willing to make it, it will never happen. If I didn't have, okay, let's say I have the will. I have the will to make it, and I don't have the knowledge. I won't be able to make it. But let's say I have some knowledge and I have the will, but I don't have the ability and power. I won't be able to make it. All of these are preconditions or prerequisites to transform into things that we see. That is why belief, as I said, as a Muslim is not coming from a blind faith. They are rationally inquiring, scrutinizing. They are investigating and making inference, sense, using rationality and intellectual inquiry. So something always there requires this something to be like God, with all the attributes. So that's like substituting God and making it like not personal, make it impersonal. This is like a one way of like avoiding a personal relationship, why this thing created you. Okay, we can come back to that, but that's what the motive is. So if that doesn't make much sense, then the universe, if it wasn't always there, so either it made itself, which is not which is actually absurd. While you're not existent, you cannot make anything while you're nothing. So it has to be made by something else. Now, question. Something else that makes this universe, again, has to have these three preconditions at least. Then you might say, okay, who made that something? Like your question about who made God. So you can go on asking that question. Who made that thing that made the universe? Okay, who made that thing that made the universe? And you go into an infinite regress. The problem is, if you keep on like this, infinite regress, our universe will never be created. Let me give you an example. Why? It's known very well in scientific philosophical circles as the problem of infinite regress. Suppose, simple example, there is a shooter who's going to shoot the criminal who's convicted and now sentenced to death. Okay? He is the, what's it called? Someone who's going to executioner. He's going to shoot them. The command to shoot, to execute that individual, the criminal, must come from someone, his commander, okay? And he has another commander to command him. If there are infinite number of commanders to command each other, like I have to command you to command her to say, shoot. And I have to be commanded by him, he has to be commanded by this gentleman, and it goes on forever, forever, and forever without an end. Would you ever receive the command to shoot? If there's never ending? Never. That means if there's infinite number of causation or causes for our universe will never come into existence. The fact that it's here, it's demonstrative that the universe didn't have infinite number of causes. That's why we believe ultimately there is a cause, there is no prior causes. This is the first cause, which itself is self-sufficient and independent. It doesn't need anything. That's why our concept of a creator is self-sufficient, independent. Eternal with no beginning, and being eternal with no beginning, there cannot be any influence by anyone.
What about starting? What about so this is like an ontological assumption that you say it has to be ontological. If you say something was already there, then
that's the inference we make just by knowing.
But why not start from that point where there is no creator?
Then there will be nothing. If there's nothing, there will be nothing.
Well,
if you begin with,
can be that something.
Think about it.
It was always there.
No, think about it.
It could also it could have been. You could leave away all. You believe that something was always there.
Has to be.
Has to be. So.
Do you know why I say that? Because something exists today.
I understood. Yeah. I understood that logic. But then you could always also start at that point where the Big Bang was the very first thing that happened. And
Big Bang is an effect. You need a cause for it.
All right, there was the cause for the Big Bang, and it was already there. But it's not
this cause. This cause again has to have these three conditions. There's more, but I reduce it down to at least minimum three. This is a reductionist approach. So you have self-awareness, you have the ability, and you have the volition or intention.
I'm not sure about the self-awareness.
I said if any one of them are absent, you can't do this universe. You can't make anything.
Yeah.
You can't make coffee.
But it can make.
Okay, look. You have knowledge how to make coffee.
Yeah.
You have intention how to make coffee, but you can't move. You can't move. You can't make coffee.
Yeah, but a lot of like a single cell has no self-awareness and has no.
Do you know how complex a simple cell is? I studied biology.
Yeah.
I did genetics on my moduling degree, right? A single cell is amazingly complex.
Yeah, but it has no
In fact,
self-awareness.
the single cell has a signature of the divine within it. That's why scientists like Michael Behe and various others, they're writing books like The Signature of the Cell. Why are they writing books like that? Because when you go into biochemical level, in a molecular level, you realize how complex it is. I'm sure you've seen the metabolic pathways.
But the point is, it's
right, and you'll realize, wow, and you still say, I don't believe in a God and a creator? That's really being lazy.
The point is, it's not, my point was it's not self-aware, the cell.
That cell, to come into a living entity, itself is impossible. Why do Richard Dawkins believe in panspermia? Do you know the reasons why he says so?
No.
One of the reasons is it's for him, abiogenesis models, that as far as my understanding goes, is such that he doesn't buy them. Because it's so complex and so miraculous of this event to occur, he can't simply accept it's possible within our world these things to happen. That's why he's making it,
But it is.
How? Tell me.
The origin of life?
Yeah.
Tell me how life comes from dead matter.
It was just always, there was something happening, physical, chemical processes again and again, and at some point at a time, something developed.
Okay, let's talk about now. You have some, amino acids became peptides, polypeptides. That's there. To get this two into a cell is something that
But a
needs.
cell is not the first thing that developed.
No, no.
in the
Okay, so
evolution. So there was.
so explain to me how
Yeah.
does simple
Water.
now how does simple peptides and polypeptides then
First step
becomes
was there
living?
needed to be water. The first thing was there needed to be water, and after that was
You okay?
able to be filled.
No, no,
First
no, no, you
thing
have-
there needed to be
Water
water.
is-
No, no, give
Cell,
everything.
A living cell is not the first thing that needs to be there.
Beginning of life is what?
Yeah.
Water.
Do you say it's RNA or DNA? What do you think is the living thing that transformed from matter? Which chemicals became now
Yeah, I think it's a cell.
beginning of
Pretty
life?
much it's a cell, the first living
Okay.
creature is a cell.
Now-
how did it happen?
A cell.
Yeah.
Imagine now you have a cell, okay, in whatever shape or form. That cell, to remain living,
Yes.
it needs to sustain itself
Yes.
through energy intake.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how does it take energy? The self is not
Well,
self-aware.
There are
There are no
different ways.
neurons. There are no neurons. There's no neurobiology at that point yet.
No.
So there is no synaptic responses
No.
whatsoever. So the cell, to sustain itself,
You have organic molecules. You already have them also in a non-living world.
Yeah, they have
no, no,
certain
and within the cell.
Yeah, no, there's no cell yet. But you have organic
No,
molecules.
I want to start with the life form first.
But then we already have the life.
No, once
the
you
question
have
was how can the life appear?
once you have a life form like the cell,
Yeah.
how does it sustain itself?
Well,
Does it know it exists?
no. But
Okay.
if you have the cell, then I
the
think
point of the cell
from
to
the
work.
cell away, the wave starting. If you
Yeah.
already agree on the cell, that it made itself out of.
No, I'm simplifying it. So you have a cell. How does it then continue to live?
Because
And-
it has physical chemical rules. It has a membrane
What gave it rules?
that come from organic molecules from. It has a membrane. And this membrane defines what can enter and what can exit the cell. And this membrane works in such a way that...
So the cell formed a membrane in
Yeah.
which it can, exchange can take place without itself knowing that it has a membrane. So let's understand this concept. This is what science are telling us, right, scientists?
yeah.
So you have a cell with a cell membrane in which it acts as the boundary of its living organism, and it inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
So how does it take in energy? First of all, it doesn't know what energy is.
No.
So imagine now it comes into arsenic, chemical called arsenic. It will kill the cell. You know that
Yes.
very well. So it comes in arsenic, it kills the cell. That's the end of the story. Finished.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but if it doesn't, let's say it comes into something else and it engulfs it. Now,
Yes.
how does it then break that down into energy? What mechanisms does it need to have?
Well, it's without a living being in the world. You can imagine that energy is things burn. You have chemical
Reaction.
chemical reactions in the universe without life happening. And
I'm
then
talking about life as in cell.
we don't have the cell, and then you have these organic molecules, and they react in a way. Imagine they produce some sort of foam, for instance, and this foam creates a circle around these organic molecules, and then suddenly this foam has the property that it lets insert certain chemicals and others not. And now imagine this happens for trillions of years in insanely many times. so insanely that we cannot imagine.
It will never happen.
At one point.
It will never happen.
Why not?
I'll tell you why. Have you heard of the concept called the mousetrap? Michael B. he mentions it in his book.
No, I don't know.
Irreducible complexity. That's the problem. There are things which are irreducibly complex. They only work when they're all mechanisms put together. The idea that you're propounding is this: you have enough time, trillions of years, and by chance and trial and error, things can happen. But things of this nature, of irreducible complexity, they cannot give you an opportunity for chance because it doesn't work. So you can't have like a half a mousetrap because it will be non-functional. It has to have all the components in place.
Yeah. And this
so likewise, a cell, if it doesn't have lysosomes, if it doesn't have Golgi bodies, if it doesn't have mitochondria, if it doesn't have all these things in place, it will not have all this mechanism of translations and excretions and so on. It will not happen. But we are giving so much to the cell that this machine, for example, you want to make DNA. To make DNA, you need proteins. To make proteins, you need ribosomes. To make it's a catch-22 situation. So if you really go deeply that molecular, you'll realize these things that we are giving so much, automatically that can happen, it's impossible to happen because the machinery is such that you have all this machinery, translation happening, transcription happening. Because you're familiar, I'm talking about all these things. It cannot just simply happen.
No.
Even
there has to be a way before that.
Three-dimensional aspects of proteins and enzyme is such that if it's in a different way, then you can't have this locking mechanism. It simply not happen. To say that this just happened by chance, the cis form and the trans form, it's believing in magic. That's how it is. We simply believe in magic when it comes to science. Scientists, as I said that.
Yeah, but I believe in science.
That part is magic. Because that part you cannot explain. Okay. No, I'm not talking about religion, remember? I'm talking about intellectual inquiry and then conviction and inference.
There are I'm so bad
hypothesis.
in discussing in English is not my. But there are hypotheses that I think are the most likely to happen. And it doesn't start at the cell. There are more primitive entities that might have occurred before that. Like, I don't know, viruses, for instance, are even more at that edge of it's not really living, it's not really not living. So
but we're talking about programs again. The viral DNA and all this. When we're talking about the DNA itself, DNA is such a precise program. You know how?
DNA is.
You know how we started making things simplified. Oh, junk DNA, right? Because we didn't understand, and now we are saying actually it's not junk at all. There is genes and pseudogenes and the genes that switch on and off and so on. It's our ignorance, just like we're saying, oh, vestigial organs, you hear these concepts, and now we realize, oh, you've got an appendix which had functions, and you've got this, and this is our, somehow, I would say, an arrogance in a way to somehow disregard the concept of any originator or creator. The concept of, you see, the idea of science somehow disproving the existence of God is really opposite. The more you study science, the more you understand the reality, that you realize this world operates on a rational level. Science is based on certain axioms, certain assumptions, that the world is meaningful, rational, and we can make sense out of it. It's not something happening like that. So, when you look at the physical laws operating in this universe, remember, physical laws themselves are abstract, like numbers. They don't have existence of their own, they're abstract. A law of electromagnetism or gravity, this abstract thing, the laws themselves are not self-aware. They're not conscious.
No.
They cannot, while knowing they don't non-existent, they cannot make concrete actions. So physical laws...
And they don't need it.
No, I'm saying, how do physical laws manifest concrete actions? Like, why do bigger objects pull towards it smaller objects? Because of this gravitational pull. That law is an abstract thing. How does it manifest into action, concrete?
Well, it can be described, and you will always dig deeper and until you're in...
You need a law enforcer. The law cannot itself enforce.
I know.
Do you understand?
Your point is correct.
Like, imagine now you have a code in a country, penal code. do's and don'ts. These are the crimes and these are the punishment. If it's just there in a book and no one enforces it, it's not going to stop crime happening. Because there will be criminals doing it, but there's a mechanism to enforce that law by police or other things, right? They will say, no, you cannot do that crime. If you get caught, you will be punished. Physical laws in our universe needs to be enforced. But who can enforce unless it's a conscious entity? Back to the same point. You have to have a conscious entity. Now you tell me, I mean, how do you reconcile this? How do abstract things enforce itself into concrete things?
But my point would really be that if you say there has to be a conscious entity and you say it was always there, that's a very heavy assumption about our world.
That's the only meaningful conclusion.
It's the only logic, but maybe, it might be a meaningful conclusion for you. But
why not for you?
But you say because I think I cannot say something like this because I cannot make such a big assumption about the universe.
It's not an assumption.
If I have,
it's an inference.
But I cannot do this because I don't have enough knowledge about the whole universe. It's just too complex. It's too big, and my position is, I think, is more smart from my perspective to say I cannot know.
Okay, I'll tell you the reason why.
That's where I always land.
The reason
because
why
you will always find logics.
No, I understand your perspective.
Somewhere.
I understand your perspective. But there is a limit of our skepticism. Sometimes we're doubtful, but there's a limit. Like imagine, someone is a skeptic that is the Earth flat or not, and then they go outside the Earth and observe with a satellite going around that the Earth is not flat. The skepticism ends there. That should be the end of skepticism. Likewise, when we...
But you cannot do this with the creation of the universe.
Now I'm saying with this universe, there's a limit of skepticism about that this universe cannot be self-created, cannot come from nothingness, so it has to be made, originated by, or brought into existence by something.
But the big difference to your example...
by that something, I say the something has to have these conditions. Otherwise, you believe in fairy tales and magic. What's the difference between you believing in fairy tales and someone who blindly believes in a religion?
The big difference...
We shouldn't be believing in blind faith. That's a blind faith when the inference is that something that originated the universe must necessarily be self-aware, ability and will. And that's what we say, this thing is an entity, what we say, the originator of the universe. And then you say, has this originator communicated with us? And we say, we have information everywhere, DNA and RNA.
Well, I know
likewise, the information comes from our creator.
I totally understand what you think.
That's the rational perspective of a human being to accept this reality. But if you don't, I'll tell you something, I'll be blunt. Okay, I'll be blunt. People, especially the scientific community and the majority, the reason they don't want to accept that conclusion, well, there is something, a self-conscious entity that made this universe, is because of what we call the ego. Because human beings don't want something greater than them. Like, oh, what? I was created by someone for a reason? Nah, I don't want to be, it's called arrogance. They don't want, look, once you know that someone made something.
The problem, before you made this example with the flat Earth. And the big difference is, in your example and talking about the universe, is you can observe the Earth, but you cannot observe the universe.
Have you observed gravity?
What?
Gravity.
Gravity.
No.
Of course. You can observe it.
You haven't observed gravity.
Jump, and I have observed it. Yes.
You see, again, that really shows like we are really going superficial. What you're doing, you're demonstrating the effect of gravity. Not gravity, effect of gravity. Gravity,
it's a force.
No.
But imagine like
but effects. Not the cause itself.
But take a rubber band. You can observe gravity is nothing.
You're observing the effect that gravity has on it.
But you would also say that.
So we are saying we are observing the effect of a creator, and yet we are saying no, it's not there. It's not there, even though you're observing the effects of the cause, the creator. You see, we need to be consistent. That's what my take-home message to you is.
Yeah, that's
when we look at, when we observe the effects embedded within this universe, you don't see the cause, but it's obvious the cause is there.
But let's not be consistent about parts of our world we know so little about.
We agree we know so little. Let me give you something example. Let me give you an example why, as a Muslim, it is never against science or scientific inquiry. In fact, you may disagree, but you will learn in a hard way. Even the scientific method was developed by scientists in an Islamic environment. There are scientists who are not Muslims and scientists who are Muslims living in the area because Islam encouraged them to develop. And
I would agree. That's history. That's history of
the history. Unfortunately, it's not taught widely. Okay, the Renaissance in Europe happened because of the contact with Islamic civilization in Spain, in Cordoba, and so on and so forth. So, what happened was when Quran was revealed. I mean, this guidance came from the originator, communication, to tell us why He's created us. When I say He, He's not a man, right? I'm just using a pronoun. Why the creator, originator, transformer, if you want to call it, created or made us into existence, told us exactly why. And in doing so, has given us reasons to accept that communication to be actually communication from that creator. Otherwise, anyone can say, oh, God told me so. That's why, I believe in this because God. For us, no. There has to come accompanying evidence and proof with the message. So when the Quran came, look, in chapter 16 of the Quran, God says, look, He created the horses and donkeys and mules and so on for you to ride and have decorations, things like this, okay, and many things. And He says, and He created many things that you don't know. Okay? You might think, what? And He says, and it is to God that He guides them, or guides it, directs them. Now, and some of this guidance, some of them are crooked, they're inclined. If you think about, like, you might think, what's so interesting? There's nothing there. But I want to show you how forward-thinking Quran is, to reflect on people, to understand the guidance is universal, is timeless. So horses and donkeys, they have their own eyes to see, to guide them to navigate, right? Things that are created later, they will probably not necessarily have their own eyes. A car doesn't have self-awareness eyes. How does it get navigated? GPS, satellites. So what he's saying is, this navigation, God is going to navigate something that's, have their not their own navigation, and some parts are inclined. Look, when aeroplanes go, they don't go straight. Their path is always inclined. Okay? So this path, so in the Quran, that people at that time did not even realize the Quran is talking about in the future there will be guidance by all these transportation mechanisms in which they will have this external guidance being controlled, but not necessarily themselves. And there will be paths that people will take that are not necessarily straight, because always it's going to be inclined like that. This is how forward-thinking some of the messages to Quran says, so that you reflect on it and say, okay, could this be from a man, a shepherd, in a desert, talking about astronomy and astrophysics and so on? The Quran says, God swears by the position of the stars, and He says, if you knew how great that oath is. At that time, people thought, okay, He's just swearing by the stars, right, and the position. What do we know about today about the position of the stars? When you look at a star today, not now, nighttime, is that star there as you see it?
Maybe.
No, it's not.
I'm not exactly at that point.
That star that you see maybe billions of years ago, it was there. All you see now is the position of that star. Yeah. That star has moved away somewhere else. So God is saying that, He swears, bimawaqi an-nujum, by the position of the star, but not the stars. If you think about it now, why is someone bringing you to attention that what you are seeing and observing is only a position of the star, not what the star is? Someone in a desert giving you all this. And he says, okay, look, have you not observed? أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth was joined together as one piece, and God parted it asunder, and he brought every living thing from water? Would you then not believe? Look how the Quran engages with us. Is the Quran saying, oh, you believe, Muslims, believe or go to hell? No, he says, look, do not the unbelievers, meaning people who do not have faith, have you not seen and known? Known what? And then it gives us something. I'll wrap it up. Gives us something, and at the end it says, would you not believe? Rhetorically. So what's provided in between two pieces of information from astrophysics and biology? The common origin of the universe, he says, look, have you not known? Now we know that the earth, the heavens, everything was already joined together as one piece. Singularity, that's the theory model that we accept, currently one of the most acceptable models. Everything was in one singularity, and of course there was separation. And then every living thing from water. So two pieces of information from astronomy and from biology, addressing to the people who don't believe and then asking, would you then not believe? This is the precise nature of how the Quran, the book, we say the guidance given to us from our Creator, engages with us, so that we can reflect on it and arrive by our own understanding of the reality of things and say, that's the sign mark of the divine who's given the message. It's an evidence itself. Because when a Bedouin, Bedouins, I'm just wrapping up, a Bedouin, like a desert dweller, okay, a Bedouin. When a Bedouin sees footsteps going along the desert, to them, that's an evidence that someone walked by this way. When they see the evidence of camel droppings, they immediately recognize a camel was there. So the same Bedouin, when they see that this is a proverb, an Arabic proverb, when they see the alteration of day and night, the creation of the day and night, isn't that an evidence of the Creator who created it? So when we look at all the evidence provided to us, rational human beings, and yet we are heedless of this science, then it's our own loss not following that message and understanding the purpose of our creation. And at the end of the day, when we find ourselves that we had a reason of our creation, and now we end up resurrected again by God and saying, now you're going to go to either heaven or hell, place of good happiness or place of misery, and you had the opportunity to make yourself in either of the two places. I gave you the message that, this is the purpose of your creation, this is how you should live your life, like you already do. Be good, be kind, just, charitable, be nice, helpful, and establish justice. And don't do these things. Don't kill, don't molest, don't rape, don't ethnically cleanse, and don't commit genocide, and do all the evil things, right? And if you follow the will, and as explained by the spokesperson, the messenger of God, live your life eternally, you have peace on this earth, and you have peace in the hereafter. Some people are negligent, are lazy to follow this, or even arrogant, I said the other part, to see and not to follow it. Then in the hereafter, they will not have an excuse. Because once they're shown that you had constant guidance come to you. Someone called Mansur in Speaker's Corner, that's my name. He reminded you to think about it. He told you about Islam. He told you why you're not a Muslim. He told you some information from the Quran, and then you didn't reflect on it. You have to have your excuses ready then, but I didn't believe because I was X, Y, and Z. But if you could not provide an excuse there, and of course none of us can, I cannot, you cannot, then we have to be really be careful, how we live our life from now on. So I really recommend you to look into Islam, look into the life of the Prophet, and read the Quran. Can I give you a copy free?
No,
please take it.
Please give it to someone.
No, take it. No.
It was really interesting.
I would like you to read it. Okay, that's fine.
Also,
it's okay, no problem. But what I'm saying is,
I'm not a big reader, so.
No, it's okay. Get an app. In fact, what you can do, because you have to go, why don't you listen to the Quran? This is the month of Ramadan. We are fasting, and at the end of the day, we go to the mosque and we listen to the Quran being recited, all of the Quran from beginning to end. But the point I want to make is, listen to the Quran being recited. Check on YouTube and say, okay, Quran recitation, best recitation, whatever. You will see the recitation and see how it resonates with you. Because often people don't understand, when the Quran is given as an oral recitation, itself has a mechanism of connection with our Creator, even if you don't understand Arabic. Look at the majority of the world today, Muslims. They don't even know Arabic. Yeah? but they're Muslims. So I would like you to really listen to the Quran, and of course, whatever you've listened, try to see what it means, and then take it from there.
Thanks.
Okay?
We had an interesting talk.
Yeah. Pleasure speaking to you. Best. Take care.
Have a good time.
Take care.
Bye.
You too. Bye.